down that camera and strap in. It's time for a new episode of TogChat Live. Get ready for 60 minutes of wall-to-wall photography, including photo news, tips, and your photography questions in real time, with answers from your host, Olympus Visionary Joe Edelman.
Hey, that's me. Thank you for joining me for another live episode of TogChat. I'm your host, Joe Edelman, and my mission, as always, is to help photographers like you to develop a solid understanding of the hows and whys behind great photographs. So before we get going, gang, as always, please do me a favor. Take a moment, tell your photography friends that we are streaming live on YouTube right now. Twitter, Facebook, those are always the easiest way to get the word out. I'm going to go ahead and paste the link into the chat window right there. It's tog.chat/live. Or, of course, you can go ahead and hit that share button underneath the video. Hey, we got a lot of people checking in already from all over the world. So please leave a comment. Let me know you're here. Let me know where you're from. I know John Edwards here, William's here, Andrew, Troy is here, Perluigi is here, Doug, Albie, Steve, Robert, Alan's here. Always great to see you guys, and I appreciate you spending a Wednesday night with me. So, of course, start posting your questions, all right? We've got a whole 90 minutes tonight you're stuck with. Just me, no interview tonight, just me answering questions, and we're gonna do things a little bit different tonight, so be ready. But by all means, start adding your questions and your topics that you would like to talk about in there. I will do my best to answer all of them in our 90-minute 1-hour show. So let's get some business out of the way, right? A couple of things. So number one, actually, before I get into the business part, the topic of tonight's show is the future of photography. Now, I know a lot of you are expecting me to come on here and basically do 5 or 10 minutes and tell you what I think the future of photography is going to be all about. Guess what? That's not what's happening. No. Why should it just be me talking? What do you think the future of photography is? So we're going to have a discussion about the future of photography. And I am sincerely curious about what you see as the future of photography. And it can be photography at any level. You might be looking at it from a gear perspective. Maybe you're looking at it from a business perspective. Maybe someone else is looking at it strictly from the pure enjoyment of it. In fact, somebody already asked a question about with megapixels becoming, so prevalent. What are we going to do about computers? The computer's going to be able to keep up. So we're going to discuss your thoughts, your concerns about the future of photography. Certainly, I'll give you my input and my feedback, but this is going to be a two-way discussion, and then we'll do our Q&A. But I wanted to catch up on some business since we didn't get to be here last week, and I am sincerely sorry. I am pretty much back to 100%, still got a little bit of a tickle and a little bit of a cough. So if you see me grab for the water bottle or a throat lozenger, I will apologize in advance. That's definitely a possibility since I'm going to be yapping here for 90 minutes, but I will do my best. So one quick little announcement, those of you that follow me on social media, and by the way, if you don't follow me on social media, come on, do a guy a solid, right? At least Facebook and Instagram, those are the two big ones. The links are right underneath. Or, of course, here, I'll do the heavy lifting for you, right? How about if we do that? So maybe I'll do the heavy lifting here. I won't. Wait a second. I'll put it in here. So my Instagram is, of course, Instagram.Joe Edelman, okay? That's the Instagram. And I'm going to put it in the chat window here for you, all right? And then on Facebook, you can find me at the Joe Edelman. There it is. Okay. So anyway, going back, if you are not following me on social media, you probably didn't hear this last week, but I was actually given a pretty incredible honor. Now, it's a sponsorship. I'm not going to lie to you, which means that, yes, I'm going to get some product from this company and I'm going to make some money from them. But it's a company whose products I've been using for quite some time now. And that is Delkin Devices. Delkin named me one of their image makers, which they put the big announcement up last week. And the thing that honestly, I'll tell you straight up, is cool for me is because if you look at this page of who the Delkin image makers are, hopefully you realize, so let me say it for you, that quite a few of the photographers on here are in a stratosphere level above where I am. But that's exactly why I'm excited to be a part of this group, because it gives me access to them. I will tell you guys, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Rick Sam, and especially Christina Tan, also Clay Blackmore. You know, these are rock stars in the photography world. Harrison Fong, Lou Freeman, amazing, amazing photographer. But there's one name on here that went by, and if you don't know who this gentleman is, shame on you. You should learn about him. You should learn about his photographs. And if you want to be a photographer, a professional photographer, you might want to study a little bit about his career. And that is the one and only Mr. Douglas Kirkland. This is a gentleman that shot for both Life and Look magazine back in the day. He took some of the most famous images ever made of Marilyn Monroe. Just an incredible career, stellar career. So obviously these are people that I am certainly hoping over the next year or so that I will be able to arrange to do some interviews with and introduce you to and get them to talk to you about their photography, etc. So, and also, as you know, I'm going to be doing a video series in the very near future about memory cards, honestly, just to try and dispel some of the myths. So if you guys remember a couple months back when Nikon announced, you know, the Z cameras and all the fuss, like the sky was falling because they had one card slot. What I realized as I talked to more and more people during that whole debacle is that a lot of people really don't understand memory cards. And when I say don't understand memory cards, I mean, number one, what do all the little things on them mean? Like, what does the class number mean? What is the difference between the write speed and the read speed? And which one's more important? And why is it more important? And what is V60? What is V90? All that stuff. And is one brand truly better than another? And if so, what makes one brand better than another? And a huge misconception that I found, huge, is the idea of memory cards failing, and more importantly, how they fail. And the fact of the matter is, so I'll give you a little tip here. This will be coming out in this video. Memory cards rarely, extremely rarely, minuscule percentage, fail of their own accord. Yeah, I'm talking like user error here. Generally speaking, if you've got a bad memory card, it's going to fail the first time you use the card, period. You're going to put it in the camera, it's not going to work properly. Done. Most of these disaster stories that you hear from photographers about memory cards that died in their camera and they lost all kinds of pictures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I'm sorry to say it's user error. And more often than not, it's because they turned the camera off before the card was done saving, or pulled the camera from the card, or pulled the card from the camera before it was done saving. User error. Okay, so we're going to do a very, very comprehensive breakdown of, number one, why I switched and why I started using Delkin a while ago and then decided to go 100% with Delkin cards. But more importantly, I want to give you the breakdown so that regardless of what brand of cards you buy, you have a much better understanding of why you're buying that, and also a little bit more background information on the various companies, so that you maybe have a little bit better understanding of why you might want to avoid some companies compared to others. So that'll be coming up around the corner soon. Also, for those of you that like to get out, do the convention circuit, make it to all the events, next week, I think it starts, when does it start? Like, well, it actually starts the end of this week, okay? But the convention is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That's the 20th, 21st, 22nd in Atlanta, Georgia. It's Imaging USA. Olympus is not going to have their booth there. In fact, one of the other camera companies is not going to be there. It's not uncommon for one or more of the camera companies to be missing at Imaging. Last year, Nikon wasn't at Imaging, and I don't think Sony was at Imaging, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, Olympus is not going to be there with our booth, But I will be presenting at Imaging next Tuesday morning. So it's Tuesday the 22nd if you're attending the show. This is a platform talk, so you either have to buy a conference ticket or you can pay to do the talk. But it's a talk called Build Your Personal Brand to Build Your Business. Your clients hire you, not your camera. Okay, so it's not my normal photography talk. It is a branding and business and marketing talk. And I know somebody's going to ask, because it happens every time, is this going to be recorded? Can you put it on YouTube? I can't. I'm sorry, that's against the rules. Okay, PPA does not allow. Oh, and here I am. I'm telling you all about this. So sorry. Let me back up here really quick. So here's the Imaging USA website. In fact, I'll put this link in here. I'm telling you guys all about it, like you can see it. And of course I can see it, but you can't. So here's the link for Imaging USA. It's not too late to get passes. It's not too late to get tickets for the expo. So you can go for the whole conference, or you could go just for the expo. If you are thinking about joining PPA, which if you're thinking about turning pro, doing portraits, weddings, that kind of stuff, you have to join PPA. You're foolish not to. You really are, sincerely. And you can also get to that from this website, okay? But if you're thinking of joining PPA, new members get to attend their first Imaging USA for free. Full conference pass, everything, okay? It's free. So it can be a really good incentive to go ahead and join PPA. So again, my talk is on Tuesday morning. It's Build Your Personal Brand to Build Your Business. Your clients hire you, not your camera. It's at 8 o'clock on Tuesday morning. So I know I'm going to have to work pretty hard to keep everybody awake, but we'll see what we can do. Also, let's see, what do I got coming up here? Next, so this will be Monday a week after that. So this is 2 weeks away. For those of you that are in the Philadelphia or Southern New Jersey area, kind of close to me, I'm going to be presenting a talk about creativity. This is going to be at the Focal Plains Photo Club. That's in Bristol, Pennsylvania. Okay. And I will share that link here on Facebook. And I'm waiting. It's like any minute here, somebody's going to complain that I'm just talking about too much crap and not getting into the important stuff. I wasn't here last week, so I'm sorry. I'm going to catch up on some business. And then, hey, the end of February, this is the big one every year. Great show, a lot of fun. WPPI is coming up in Las Vegas. It's the 27th, that's a Wednesday, 28th, Friday, and March 1st, Saturday. I will be presenting twice a day, all 3 days for Olympus. We're going to do some really cool, bold fashion portraiture with small lights, all with speed lights, and I'm going to be doing my calm in the middle of chaos with lots of stuff blowing and flying and material and confetti and all kinds of crazy stuff. So hopefully you're going to make it to WPPI. Again, similar thing. There's an educational track that you got to pay a lot of money for. It's expensive. And then there's the expo that you can always go to the expo for free. So whatever you do, don't pay to go to the expo. Do a little bit of research. You'll find companies that are giving away free passes for the expo all over the place. So there's no reason to have to pay for that, okay? And then, Nick, you do not have to feel bad about not tuning in last week. You get a free pass because I was just under the weather and drugged up. Like, that's it. I had a wicked cold. So you're good, man, okay? And also, seriously, just so you guys are aware, I know a lot of times I talk about the social media stuff, say, hey, you follow me on social media, and you're thinking, yeah, he's just pimping to get numbers. Look, obviously you know that I'm not putting out a tutorial video every week, and that's not going to happen anytime soon, that I'm going to go back to weekly. Don't get me wrong, the tutorials aren't going away. In fact, they're coming back in a really cool way. But in case you're not aware of it, I've been doing little mini educational pieces on Instagram. Almost all of my Instagram posts, if you click on the picture and do the swipe right, you will find a behind the scenes video on how we did the shot, how we set it up. So you can see in the studio, it talks to you about all the gear, everything that was involved. It shows lighting diagrams, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully you will find some value in that, and you will consider going ahead and following me on Instagram. In fact, I'll put the link in here now that I have the actual link. Here's the whole link. All right, so enough of my random yapping about stuff about me. let's get into the important stuff, shall we? Okay, so I want to go ahead. I'm going to close out a couple tabs in my browsers here real quick, guys, just so that I am looking at all the right stuff. A couple of you did post some questions early. We will get those questions, don't worry. And a couple of you did post questions online. And I even have a few questions that came through from Instagram. Don't panic. I will get to those. But I posted a title shot for today's show that said, "The Future of Photography." So as I mentioned earlier, I expect that a lot of you assumed that I was going to come on here and just kind of, get on my soapbox and tell you, this is where I think photography is going. No. Why do I have to do all the work? Come on, all right? So really what I want to know, and I'm really sincere, so, okay, we can have some sarcasm along the way, but I'm really sincere about this. I would love for you guys to start giving me some feedback in the chat window. Where do you think photography is going? Again, we can talk at a business level, we can talk at a gear level, all of it, okay? But I would love to know what you guys think. While you are typing, let me make a couple predictions for you about things that you're going to see and hear a lot about this year. Sambo, you did not miss the Kelly Cox interview. I was sick last week, like really sick. We canceled TogChat last week. Kelly is shooting Major League Sports like daily, so she's got a really crazy schedule, but I can tell all of you, Kelly will be back on February 6th. And, a little bit of kismet. This was not planned this way. I promise you it was not. But the good part is, last week, if I would have had the show, you all would have been asking Kelly all kind of questions about the EM1X because she's in the video. And guess what? She wouldn't have been able to answer them. So the good part is on February 6th, she will be on the show. The camera will be announced by then. You already know the announcement's coming next Thursday, the 24th, okay? And she will be able to talk all about it and all about her experiences with it. So by that time, there will be no embargo. Everybody will know what's going on, and all the announcements will be made. And you notice I said plural on the announcements. That's all I'm saying, plural, okay? All that will be made, and we'll be able to talk about them. So again, I apologize for last week, but it was like a brutal week. So anyway, here, so while you guys are putting in your predictions, come on, nobody's typing predictions. A couple people put predictions in early. Come on, no guts, no glory, guys. It's like, seriously, this is and your prediction might involve where do you see your photography going? But seriously, what do you see as the future of photography? This is actually an important discussion, but I want to try and give you a little different twist on it. That's the thing. So one of the things that I predict you are going to be hearing a lot about this year. And I mean a lot, okay? Not from any one place. I think you're going to hear this from camera companies. I think you are going to hear this from computer technology, from internet technology. We've already been hearing it actually from internet technology and computer technology. You're going to be hearing it from cameras. I think you'll be hearing it even from potentially third-party accessory suppliers, maybe like flash units as an example. I think that you will be seeing a lot more of this because we've been hearing a little bit in the last 12 to 18 months in the software realm. That phrase, that term that I'm talking about is AI, artificial intelligence. I'll admit, you guys know that I frequently am making predictions 5 years out, 10 years out, where I think the industry is going to go, right? Well, I got to tell you, in the last 18 months, AI has actually kind of snuck right past me without me paying enough attention to it. And right about now, because I do look at these things, it's actually kind of like just smacking me in the face, like, wow, how could you have missed this? It's kind of so obvious, number one, and so many of the clues are there. So some of the obvious clues that we've already seen, companies like Skylum Software with Luminar, and their AI sky tool, the sky enhancer, like, how cool, okay? And then of course we have the social media companies like Facebook and Google that are doing the facial recognition, and Google who's building AI where they're able to identify what are the contents of a photo without someone actually typing, this is what the photo is, okay? And if you start to think that through and think about the potential for that in camera technology, so just let your mind dream for a minute, right? It is going to be incredible, okay? That clock, AI has been around for a very long time. It's called autofocus. You're not wrong. You're actually not, okay? However, the AI that we call autofocus actually, in order to be most effective, required some input from us, hence moving the autofocus spot, right? If we just left it in the center or just did averaging, the camera did a pretty good job of it. In recent years, we've seen the eye tracking autofocus. Of course, it's getting better and better. But even with that, the camera manufacturers still recommend that you move your focus spot to the eye whenever possible, right? So, it's getting further and further down the road on that to where it's truly going to become AI, to the point that the camera's just going to know you're photographing a person, or the camera's just going to know you're photographing a car, or the camera's just going to know you're photographing an airplane, right? And once it knows that, boom, it's going to figure out what to focus on, what not to focus on, et cetera. So you're absolutely right. I would agree with you. I mean, autofocus has definitely kind of been an early version. So has, auto exposure, et cetera. But we're getting to the point now where the cameras are thinking much, much more beyond that. The processors in the cameras are incredible. The speed of those processors, the power, the memory, et cetera. I think you're going to see, amazing things happen. So actually, I just want to read back through some of the things that people are typing, because this is great. And some of it's obvious, but I'm glad it's obvious, and you'll understand why in a minute. So a couple people are talking about phones. Mitch Morgan, I think with improved camera phones and less focus on quality, the main use being social media, more people realize that they don't need a TOG. The ones who survive will be the creators. Now see, I should have saved that question, or I should have said that statement, I should say. Mitch, I would actually disagree. I understand the intent of your statement. We could take that statement and we could roll it back 20 years to the first digital cameras. And people were saying the same things then, right? Not going to need a TOG anymore. The ones that survive will be creatives. There are a lot of photographers that aren't overly creative that are surviving. There just are. And I'm not doing modest, guys. Look, okay, you know that I can name a bunch of photographers, a large bunch, whose work I think is amazing. I don't think I'm one of those photographers. So, hard work, quality, detail, that will always pay the bills, right? To survive as a photographer, you've got to run a business. It's got nothing to do with your photography. You've got to run a business, period, okay? So I think that's always going to be the case. That's never going to change. What will happen, which kind of ties into what Mitch is saying, is that the better cameras become, the easier it becomes to take a good picture. There is also, we could argue, kind of somewhat of a lowering of standards in terms of what people expect from the standpoint of quality as a result of this accessibility to photography. There will be more and more people that want to be photographers, that try to become photographers and fail. Sure, absolutely. But I think you will still have, on average, a similar amount of successful photographers doing a similar amount of work. There will always be a certain amount of demand there, because the simple fact of the matter is, great photography is not something you can do with a cell phone on a consistent level. Great photography is not something that you pick up a point-and-shoot camera and do on a consistent level. Great photography is not something that you go out and buy the most expensive Sony or Nikon or Canon or Olympus camera without really knowing how to use it and without really understanding the basics of photography and consistently take great pictures. It's just not, right? So, I don't think that will ultimately, I don't think it will ultimately play out to that extreme, because I think we had that same situation 20 years ago, and we could probably argue we had that same situation years before that, as film was becoming faster, more latitude in film, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So coast-to-coast imagery. Do you need to reserve a spot for my presentation next Tuesday? Just grab a seat. As long as you have a conference pass and you have access to the talk, show up bright and early. Okay. Apparently, it's a big room. They say that these talks are set up. The platform talks are set up for like 450 to 800 people. I cannot imagine 450 people getting up at 8 a.m. in the morning because we talk about branding, but we'll see. Okay. So yeah, I hope to see you there. So. Cosplay Studio, hopefully dual SD cards won't be a problem if the camera in the future is doing some backup to the cloud. That's actually a great point. I mean, as we continue to develop our wireless technology, as we continue to, I've got to note here that some bad sound. Is anybody else having an issue with sound? Oh, did the sound go? Really? Are you guys losing my sound here? Uh-oh. Seriously? You guys are... Mic issues. All right, so you know what? Let's try and switch the mic. Hang on, guys. All right, let's go ahead and switch. Tell me if this helps, okay? I'm going to go with the onboard mic. So give me some feedback as soon as you can, guys. Are we doing a little bit better with the sound there? Okay. All right, so I'm waiting for you guys to cycle around here because it's always about 30 seconds behind or so. If you guys can hear me asking you now if I fixed the sound, please. There we go. Better. Awesome. Sweet. Okay, cool. So, sorry about that, guys. Don't know what's up. Everything's reading good here. Batteries are good. Yeah, but we'll work off the onboard sound. It's all good. All right. As long as you guys can hear me, that's cool. So anyway, I was back here. Cosplay Studio said, hopefully dual SD cards won't be a problem as the camera in the future can do instant backup to the cloud. I totally see that coming. Obviously, as wireless technology gets better, what's to say that we won't have like LTE, 4G, 5G, whatever built into the cameras, or be able to build in, super fast Wi-Fi access, use phones as hotspots. There's any number of possibilities there. That's certainly an option. Again, we're at a point with the dual SD card thing. I think people overreacted for all the wrong reasons about the Nikon cameras. Now, before you get started on me, please, I agree. In today's marketplace, it is foolish for a high-end camera to not have 2 card slots. So I agree. Nikon made a faux pas by doing that. But the faux pas was not nearly as bad as people freaked out about, etc. So again, all of those things is what it is, right? But I agree with you on that one, Cosplay. I think that there's a good chance that we're going to see something like that. So Christian said back here, still knowing that each time the cell phones are getting very strong, capturing potential quality in the photos, we need more quality to do more faster to take and deliver the image. Christian, I would actually disagree with that too. And this is why I wanted to have this conversation, guys. This stuff is great. So I don't think that the answer to battling cell phones. So first of all, I don't think we need to battle cell phones, guys. I really don't. And I'm going to give you some tough love here. A lot of you, right? But I don't think that we need to be battling cell phones. And we certainly don't need to battle them with more quality. Because keep in mind that more quality is costing you more money, not your clients. That more quality is requiring you to have faster computers. That more quality is requiring you to have more storage space. That more quality is requiring you to take longer in post-processing, especially if you do the kind of work that I do, right? So, ultimately what we need is we need more people capable of producing true quality images, right? Because what we're overlooking here, gang, and again, I'm going to go back to something I talked about before when I was answering, Mitch's statement. There have always been and still are today a group of photographers who are making really good money. And here's the irony of it. Most of you don't know their names. They're not on YouTube. They're not posting all over Facebook and Instagram. They're working their ass off. They got their head down and they're busting their butt. What we have, though, today that we didn't have 30 years ago, or even 20 years ago, because photography is so accessible, we have a much higher percentage of people with cameras, passionate about photography, that want to be one of those photographers that's making really good money. The problem is they're misinformed or they're lazy. Misinformed because they think they're going to make that money by being on YouTube or by having a big social media following. That's the misinformed. Lazy because instead of putting in the work over 10, 15, 20, 30 years and developing a reputation and a clientele and a skill set, they think that because they spent $20,000 on a camera and 3 lenses, that they can make that kind of money because they've got a great camera. I hate to say it, that's the joke, right? But that's how people think. So, I would debate that the cell phone thing is not an issue. What we have is, as a result of photography being more accessible, we have more people being more clueless. We have more people thinking that photography is easy. And as a result, we also have more people whining and complaining that they can't make money as a photographer. But we still have every bit as many really, really good photographers making really, really good money. We just do, okay? Troy says, I think cell phones will develop technology that will make its way into cameras. Yeah, and that's certainly already happening. And I think that you are going to see stuff coming out in high-end pro cameras over the next year that is not cell phone technology, but it is technology that's going to filter its way down into lower-end prosumer cameras for sure. Sony kind of did that today. I mean, Sony announced that new, I don't know, what is it, A6400? I apologize. I don't know the name. I'm not trying to crack on Sony. I just didn't pay a lot of attention, right? But it's basically meant to be like a consumer camera. It's interesting because like all the YouTubers, Tony and Chelsea, and even Manny Ortiz, who is a Sony collective artisan, they were online busting on this camera because it has some really stupid features that don't make sense, right? But the fact of the matter is, it's got crazy high-end technology, right? So we're going to see a lot of that pro-end technology kind of filtering its way down, which is awesome. I mean, that's totally awesome, okay? Felix, hopefully MFT will survive. Nevertheless, will Olympus join the Element Alliance? No. They've and I have no inside information that you don't have, Felix. Olympus has been very straightforward and very public about their commitment to Micro Four Thirds. Done. And you'll understand that. You'll understand that much more as this year goes on. That much I can tell you. There are still going to be the naysayers going to be saying, I see, Gatan said here about Tony Northrup saying Micro Four Thirds is dead as a faux pas. And it is, because Micro Four Thirds isn't dead. Micro Four Thirds is going to become stronger than ever, okay? There are always going to be people that, they're going to want the bigger is better. Done, period. That's fine, okay? But the fact of the matter is, Micro Four Thirds is going to be around. Cell phones are going to be around. They're all going to get better. And I think the high-end technology that's coming out, you will see it filter down. And that Sony A6400, it's a perfect example of that. Given that the market that Sony is marketing that camera to, why do they need some of those features? Like, that's high-end technology. It's there because they can. And that's awesome. Like, that's totally awesome. Again, I'm not busting on Sony, okay? I'll let the Sony people do that because they're already griping about the camera. That's cool. But the way I see it, from what I understand, it's basically meant to be a consumer camera, in which case I would say, a pretty amazing camera, right? So, Steve Wilking, based on what you said, cell phones making it more accessible. That is why Micro Four Thirds will live on. Full frame will slow down. Price drives a lot of things. Cell phones have smaller sensors. Yeah, so one of my predictions, guys, let's talk in 5 years about sensor size. And I really sincerely, and it's not because of this, I swear to you, I think if we have a conversation in 5 years, you're going to see the trend turning back to smaller sensors. And I'm not saying
I'm not saying they don't go back to Micro Four Thirds. I'm not saying that's going to be the king of the hill. No. I am confident that in 5 years, you're going to see the trend turning back to smaller. Because keep in mind, Sony develops a new sensor. It can do this and that. Nikon develops a new sensor. It can do this and that. Don't think that Olympus and Panasonic aren't developing new sensors. They are. They are just committed to keeping them in the Micro Four Thirds format. But nowhere has it been established, and certainly you haven't heard this from Olympus or Panasonic, it hasn't been established that you can't make a Micro Four Thirds sensor better than it already is. Of course you can. So there are going to be improvements there as well. And then it is going to reach a point where it's like, why are we spending the money for these big sensors? Why are we carrying all these sensors? Why are we carrying all this weight? When you can, do with Olympus for a third the price and half the size what you do with a Nikon or Canon, why would you? So believe me, I think that you will see things turn around in that extent. And not that everybody's going to leave full frame. No. There's room for everybody. But it's not going to be quite as much of a push. So, Perluigi, do I think that artificial intelligence will kind of flatize or like, I think what he's saying is kind of like even out the style of photographer, so it's all just kind of the same crap. Perluigi, I don't. No. And here's why. There will be an element of that artificial intelligence that will kind of be the high-tech equivalent of Instagram filters, right? One click, boom. So yes, everybody that's lazy and does one click and boom, their stuff's going to be flat and it's all going to look the same, right? It's kind of like, let's go out and use high-speed sync and overpower the sun so that we all have the same look outside, right? Boring. But the people that are creative, the people that are going to create it, that are creative, are going to use that artificial intelligence as a tool. That's how I intend to use it. Believe me, it's a tool. It's a jumping point. It's a starting point. It's going to help me get work done faster. It's going to help me create things, sometimes maybe that I hadn't even thought of. If you guys have listened in some of my Images Reimagined videos and some other talk chats that I've done, I talk about the fact that while I'm the guy that says, don't use 4-letter words, auto is a 4-letter word. When I open up an image in Camera Raw, I hit auto white balance, I hit auto exposure, I hit all the autos just to see what it will do. 90% of the time, I go back to the default and then I process my image. 10% of the time, actually, we'll do 8% of the time, something happens that I did not anticipate. It's not perfect. It's not exactly the way I like it, but it takes me in a direction I wasn't thinking of. And so I'll process the image from that point. Maybe 2% of the time I'll hit that auto and it's like, whoa, that's really cool. Not at all what I was thinking. I like this, done, and I'll go with it, okay? So in that sense, it's kind of like using, an AI to kind of jumpstart me. So the only people that are going to be flat and boring are the people that are zombies and lazy and they just kind of go with the flow and go with the crowd. The people that want to be creative, they're still going to be creative and they're still going to, use that to really do cool stuff. So Seymour, Olympus next level smart camera like a smartphone. I don't know about that. I do think that you're going to see all cameras, not just Olympus, Canon, Nikon, all of them. I think you're going to see a lot more development in the phone apps that go with them. We had the comment earlier on about, being able to transmit images wirelessly to the cloud and that. I think you're going to see phones coming in into play a lot more. So, Mitch Morgan, there's a perception that Nikon has neglected the DX crop sensors range for some time now, especially when it comes to lenses. Could crop sensors be doomed? Mitch, I don't actually have a guess in terms of how this sensor thing is going to play out. Here's what I'm confident about. Micro Four Thirds is not going to go away, right? So that's on the small end, right? Then from there, obviously full frame is going to be here to stay for a while. You're going to see sensors potentially get even bigger, which we already know sensors are going to get bigger. And then there's going to be some in-between sizes. And then they're going to get better with the software where they're going to be able to do interpolation and all that kind of stuff where you don't need a bigger sensor. So there's going to be all those things. Could we get to a point where we don't need to have that many different sensor sizes? That I could imagine. I could totally imagine that happening. But as it is right now, I don't see APS-C going away. Certainly, would it be possible that a camera company could decide, we're not going to develop in this size anymore? Yes. I would think that companies like Canon and Nikon would be thrilled to get rid of APS-C now that they've got, the mirrorless and the DSLRs, but they can't. If Nikon was to announce tomorrow, or Canon was to announce tomorrow that they were dropping everything with APS-C, there'd be a lot of really upset people. So it would be a PR nightmare for them. That I think would wind up costing them a lot of money. So I don't think we're going to see anything like that coming. I really don't. So Wahab, leave some space for a new tattoo Sony. Yeah, no, sorry, we'll never be a Sony yet. So. Desmond, I did not speak about color yet. Don't worry. I saw there were some color questions earlier. We'll get to that. So I want to scroll back up here because I know I missed a couple. Victoria Lauren, do I think that 12 to 35 millimeter f1.4 with autofocus lenses will ever come out for Micro Four Thirds? Maybe with a new Olympus camera coming, would be nice to have a full frame equivalent of Micro Four Thirds. I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. Obviously, we know the new camera's coming. We're going to hear the announcement next week. We know that there's a new zoom lens planned for it. That's been announced already, so I can speak to that. There's a couple things that I know. I'm trying to share with you as much as I can. All right. Obviously, guys, I would lose my sponsorship. I'm under an NDA. I've signed a legal contract, so I have to be cautious about what I say and respect that. But I can tell you sincerely, Victoria, I do not know of any zoom lenses in that kind of a range and not at that aperture that are coming out. Remember, I've said this a couple times to all of you, this year is the 100th anniversary of Olympus. Olympus has got some really cool stuff planned, most of which, let me be clear, I sincerely do not know the details. But I have heard the phrase spoken to me over and over and over again by Olympus folks that there's a lot of cool stuff happening this year for Olympus and Olympus users. So I do know that this first camera that's coming out next week is just the first step in a lot of stuff that's coming. So I think that I think that we're going to see a lot of neat possibilities. So. Vaughn Felix, I hope the future is better photographers, not better gear. Yeah, unfortunately, that's not going to happen. And the reason why, again, the gear is easy to control. That's science and technology, right? So that's easy. And there are people that are much smarter than photographers that are making that gear. They just are, okay? Keep in mind, I'm picking at myself there, right? It would be great if we have better photographers, but we won't. We will have better pictures. Anand, thank you. I really, really appreciate the super chat. Thank you very much. We will have better pictures coming from better cameras. But the idea of a better photographer, no, we're still going to have a small piece of, the pie that really invests the time and the effort and the learning and the hard work and the practice. And then we'll have others that, they really enjoy it, but they're ultimately not willing to kind of put in that effort. So, John B, I like that you talk about creativity, Joe. This is where the magic happens. Oh, it absolutely does, man. I mean, gear is fun, but we watch for you and your creativity, and I appreciate that. I started talking about a year ago about this phrase geartographers, and it was meant to be kind of an insult to people. What I didn't realize, it actually was a really harsh insult, because what I realized the more people I talked to after I started saying that is that there are a lot of people whose true pleasure in photography is the gear. It's the toys. And who am I or anybody else to say, hey, that's not right. That's not appropriate. So, obviously a big part of that is just understanding, what is it you really want out of photography and not letting anybody else tell you what you should want out of it. And make sure that you work to get out of it what you do. And as long as that's the case, that's all good. So, Raul, maybe some words on the upcoming Olympus. Is this a new notch in camera stabilization? Raul, I can't say. Here's what I'll tell. So I will tell you guys one thing that I'm not supposed to tell you. One. Just one. Right? Only one. That's it. The rest of it, you got to wait until next Thursday. So actually, I'll tell you that in a minute. So next Thursday, they are making the announcement about the camera. If you check out the countdown clock on the Get Olympus website, it's at like 1 a.m. in the morning, like East Coast time in the U.S., because the announcement's coming from Japan, of course, right? So it's going to be at like 1 a.m. here in the U.S. I will have a video drop probably at about 2 a.m. that is all about that camera, just to give you a complete breakdown of what new features does it have, what do they do, how could you put them to use, what are they designed for, etc. Along with some of my opinions. So it's not an Olympus sponsored video, but obviously I'm an ambassador. So I will tell you this. So this is the part I'm not supposed to tell you. I have it. Okay? So I've had a chance to play with it. In fact, this past Monday, I was at Olympus headquarters and filmed a video for them with it. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Like, really cool. But the rest of it, I've got to say that for next week. And I hope you understand. I hope you appreciate that. Those are the rules. I have to abide by them. But you guys know that as soon as it is a public announcement, I will be trying to provide you lots and lots and lots of information. So definitely coming. Okay. Steve, you want to get off of disability using photography? Hey man, good luck. Anybody, and you might want to consider, Steve, number one, making sure you check in for a lot of these talk chats, because we frequently talk about business and I answer business questions. And even look at potentially joining my Patreon group. A lot of my patrons, that's why they're there. We talk business. We dig into, marketing and all that kind of stuff. So, anybody that, this is with a smile, okay, Steve? Anybody that is dumb enough to want to pay their bills with a camera, I'm behind you 100%, okay? And if you don't know what I mean by that, don't be offended. Maybe I'll explain that again. It's just something I talk about a lot of time, that professional photographers, we're all kind of idiots, but, I'll gladly explain that another time. So let's see here. Jean, we want better photographers. Simply take out of auto will force us to understand what's wrong instead of hoping. Yeah, and you know what? I again, it is that it is that balance of the auto is great for a lot of reasons. It's not that the auto is bad, and it's not that the AI is bad. It's that photographers, and I remember, photographer is a person who takes pictures. That's all it says in a dictionary. It doesn't say anything about being professional, right? Okay, so the problem is not the gear being simple and being auto. The problem is the photographers being lazy, right? So that's that's the problem there. But I don't know about you guys, and this is don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be a jerk here. I'm glad that there's a lot of lazy photographers. The fact that there are a lot of lazy photographers has allowed me to have a career throughout my life, right? Because for every lazy photographer, that's that much less harder I have to work to impress my clients, right? So I, for one, have never complained about the lazy photographers ever, because that is less competition, okay? Just saying, right? So Ajax, what were some changes in the business of photography that you learned to adapt and continue being successful? Is there a change that you foresee in the near future? Now, here's the irony of it, Ajax. The business of photography, it's the same today as it was when I started in the business in the 1970s. I swear to God, it's exactly the same. The gear's different. The technology's different. The technology that we use to market is different. Marketing itself is not different. Great marketing today is exactly the same philosophies and thought processes as it was in the 1970s. I swear to God. In fact, if you're coming to Imaging USA, come to my personal branding talk and you'll learn all about that, okay? But no, I don't see the business changing much at all. Along the way, you're always going to have little niches that will pop up. Some will disappear, some will grow. Over the last 10 years, Ajax, penny stock, the idea of stock photography for $1 or $2 or that kind of stuff, right? So the photographers now that make tons of money on stock photographers, for the most part, are people that are churning out millions and millions and millions of images a year. And I'm not exaggerating when I say millions and millions. If you look at the highest paid stock photographers, they've got staffs of like 5, 10, 15 people, and they're just churning and churning and churning, okay? Because they know that it's going to be a volume business. The only way they're going to make any money when you can make so little, is through volume. So, you're always going to have pieces that are going to come and go and things that will fall in and fall out. But overall, you're not going to see the business of photography change that much. You're really, really not. And I'm extremely confident about that. It really is, kind of understanding that at the end of the day, people don't care about you. They don't care about your photographs. They care about what is their experience with you going to be. And that applies to darn near every kind of photography that's out there. Okay? And I've talked about that in previous videos, talked about it in previous talk chats. But that'll be part of my talk that's coming up on Tuesday. So Jimmy Hill, did you miss a rant? Should you go for full frame or better bokeh? Dude, go for both, man. Like, if you got the money to spend, like, go for it. But just understand, if you're going to do that Sony thing for full frame and better bokeh, remember, you need one camera for like your weddings, one camera for your portraits. Oh, I know I shouldn't say that, right? I'm just kidding, guys. But seriously. Steve, I've seen the sports teasers for the new camera and they're cool, but as a wedding and portrait shooter, I'm looking forward to your take on it from a shooting people perspective. Next week, man. Next week. I promise. I will have some input. All I can tell you right now is I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the fact that Olympus is sticking with Micro Four Thirds. I'm excited about the fact that they are committed to mobility, right? I mean, you guys saw my video, why I switched, right? This is such a big part. The fact that I've gone to smaller lights in my studio and I've cut the cord, all that stuff. I am thrilled that I didn't switch and then a year later they're like, oh yeah, we're going to go like Panasonic did. We're going to go full frame, et cetera, et cetera. No, I don't want that. I am thrilled with the format that I'm working in. I'm thrilled with the ecosystem. I don't want them to abandon it. What I want them to do is I want them to continue developing new technology within that framework. Technology that will help me improve my photography, not by changing systems, not by going to something that's completely foreign, by improving on the stuff that I'm working with. So I'm just thrilled with everything that they're doing. And honestly, it's an exciting year. Even this camera today that Sony released, as much as I don't quite get what their whole marketing plan with it is and all that doesn't matter. The fact that Joe Edelman doesn't matter. What's exciting? There's some cool technology there, right? There is. That's exciting for everyone. The fact that Sony comes out with new technology is exciting for an Olympus user. Why? Because that places pressure on Olympus to stay up with that, to stay on top of that. It's exciting for a Nikon user because it places pressure on Nikon, right? So I see all of it as being good. I really, really do. It's all a plus. It's all things that are going to continue to drive the industry in places. I think the thing that's most important for photographers, for all of you, is just understand that just because there's a new camera for any brand, it doesn't mean you need to go out and buy it. Be smart enough to understand, is it going to improve your photography? And there is one other criteria. So let's be very clear about what the improve your photography piece means. There's not a whole lot that any camera is going to come up with today that is going to make a dramatic improvement in your photography. Let's be clear, right? We're at a point where that's kind of hard to do. So what we're looking at when we say improve your photography, we are looking for the idea of what features are in a camera that are going to streamline the process, simplify the process, make it easier for you, give you more accuracy, like all these cool autofocus things we're seeing, like with what Sony did today, etc. Okay, that's the stuff. When I say improve your photography, that's really what I'm talking about. Unless you are, working with a 15-year-old APS-C camera, there's, and looking at making an upgrade, there's not a whole lot that's going to jump out that's going to be a dramatic improvement just because you're using that camera. It's the feature sets and the technical capabilities of the camera, being able to streamline your workflow, give you more accuracy, etc. That's the stuff that's going to be really, really important. So, Gene Moore, I'm amazed at the quality of the images the Olympus produces. I'll look for your imaging next week. Yeah, I'm thrilled with the Olympus, obviously, and definitely I will be. So I'm literally flying in and flying out, Gene. So I will be on the trade show floor Monday afternoon. For about 4 hours, from like probably noon until 4. I'm going to be making a stop at the JPEG mini booth for a little while. I'll also be stopping at the Pixel Connections booth for a little while. And then Tuesday morning, I do my talk at 8 a.m. if you can get up that early. And then I'll be headed out back to the airport by like 11 a.m. in the morning. So it's a real quick trip in and out. But I'm looking forward to it. Imaging is always a nice show. A lot of good friends here, so it's always nice to see them. So, looking at switching from the Canon system, yeah, so that's definitely a big savings in weight. So, JR, unfortunately, the 7-14 wide angle for Olympus here is nearly double the price of Fuji. And the only reason why my switch is to Fuji instead of Olympus, more about the cost than anything else. Yeah, and I mean, if that's what it comes down to, JR, I understand that. Again, there's always going to be, mitigating circumstances in different ways. So, obviously, as long as you are, as long as you're happy with that choice, that's great. A lot of people ask me, like, how come you didn't test the Fuji before you switched to Olympus? One really, really simple reason. I didn't test Fuji, but I handled Fuji. I personally, just Joe Edelman, I don't like the ergonomics. I know some of their ambassadors, like Bobby Lane, great photographers, love the gear, etc. It's cool. I mean, Fuji's doing great stuff, right? But for me, I just did not like the ergonomics of the camera. Did not like the way it felt. So it wasn't a thing for me. And at the time, Fuji didn't have quite the ecosystem built around it. One of the things that I found very comforting moving from a system like Nikon to Olympus, everybody's like, ooh, it's Micro Four Thirds. I hate to tell you, there is a great ecosystem built around, the Olympus system. You've got over 23 different lenses, accessories out the wazoo. So I knew that I wasn't going to be lacking capabilities when I made that switch. That was also a big part of it. Fuji's making great strides in that area, though, so it's not like I think it's a bad choice. I'm just saying, for me, it wasn't the right choice at the time. So, per Luigi, despite all this technology, many professional photographers often return to shoot with film or Polaroid. Why despite all this? Because they want to be artsy-fartsy. And that sounded really snobbish or whatever. For me, remember what I said earlier? Don't use four-letter words. F-I-L-M, right? Just saying. I'm glad I learned on film. I am really glad I learned on film. Why? Because I lack patience. I'm very type A. And film forced me to slow down and be deliberate. So for me, film was a great learning experience, but I would not want to go back to film. I absolutely wouldn't. So, Hemant, few tips for wedding photography. Take lots of pictures. You got to give me a little bit more than that. Like, so I have a feeling you may be new to my show, so I don't want to be mean or be a jerk. That picture, or that question, excuse me, a few tips for wedding photography is such a broad question. I would need like the next 2 weeks to answer that. Like, I don't know what you're expecting. I don't know what kind of tips or what kind of weddings you're shooting in terms of what style. I don't know what kind of gear you're using. You gotta narrow that down a little bit, and I will definitely try and share some information with you. Robert, I will definitely be working to get Bobby on. In fact, my game plan, just so you know, I will see Bobby either at imaging, or if I don't see her at imaging, because I'm going to be in and out so fast, I know I will see her at WPPI, and she is on my list of people to talk to. Bobby and I have done a bunch of workshops and events together in the past. She's awesome, a lot of fun. Yes, I will definitely get Bobby on here along with a lot of the image makers from Delkin. Somebody earlier, way earlier today, let me go back and find it, asked me about one of the visionaries from the Olympus visionaries from elsewhere in the world, who also has a YouTube channel, and I feel really bad because I do not remember the gentleman's name. I'm going back to look for it here, see if I can find it. I will definitely be looking to see if I can get some of the visionaries from elsewhere in the world on. I also want to continue introducing you guys to all the visionaries, here in the U.S. Peter Forsgaard, that's right, who also has an Olympus, a YouTube channel. I will be working my way through the list of all of them. I've gotten, so just so you guys know, there's going to be a lot more interviews. I've gotten great response from them. We're probably going to do them at the suggestion of one of you, actually. We're probably going to do them every other week is going to be the plan. Not always. Sometimes it may be every week, depending on when people are available, etc. But I got a great response from doing them. I've also got some new ideas to how I can make them even better. I want, hey, it was my first time doing interviews, right? So I want to improve my interview skills. As I went back and I watched some of those first ones that I did, I wasn't getting the information out of them. If I'm a beginner or even an intermediate photographer, I wasn't getting the information out of those interviews that I would like you to get out of those. And that's my fault for not asking the right questions. So yes, I intend to keep learning better interviewing skills, to keep doing the interviews, and yeah, that's going to be coming. So but Ken Jackson, wedding photo, run. That's actually usually what I tell people. It's like, yeah, wedding photography, not for me. But to be clear, just now that I said that, and I don't want to, I don't want to try and scare people. Understand that if you're gonna make money at shooting weddings, you're not gonna make it by shooting weddings and then handing people a disc or handing people a download link to, download all their files. Wedding photographers, the best wedding photographers, the highest paid wedding photographers, make their money by selling prints and albums. That's where the money is. That's the part that for me, I just am not interested in doing. I did it. I tried it. I've done weddings. Just not my thing. So, yeah, Steve Gosling, Gavin Hoey are definitely possibilities. I've been chasing Gavin for a while. Gavin is a great guy. Gavin has a lot to do. The fact that I am an Olympus visionary, I owe that initially to Gavin. He's the guy that was actually the catalyst for putting all the pieces together. I met him at Photo Plus 2 years ago, and he's just absolutely awesome. So believe me, I've been harassing him to do this. So he wanted to see a couple of them first to make sure that they weren't like, when did you get started in photography and how long you've been doing it? Because I hate those interviews. But yeah, we'll get Gavin on here for sure. Adam, thank you so much, man, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. So your question, from Adam here, do you have any advice for those making a camera system change versus what they know about their current gear versus their new system? At one of the forums I help on, we see my new gear doesn't do. Well, so rent them. That's first and foremost, because the way I look at it, if somebody just bought a camera and then they're on Facebook of all places saying, help, my camera won't do this, but my old one did. I'm sorry, this is not maybe the nicest thing to say, but for me, that person's an idiot. Like, why would you do that? If you go back, Adam, and you listen to the stories I've told about my switch to Olympus, when I came up with the idea that I was interested, I rented a Mark II and 12 to 40 zoom from lensrentals.com, right? Used it for a weekend, had a lot of fun with it, shipped it back, and I was really excited. And then I realized I'm an idiot. I don't know if it does this. I don't know if it does that. It's like I thought of afterwards all these things like, dude, you should have had a list. Like I should have had a list of make sure it does this. So I rented another one from lensrentals.com. Same lens, same camera body, and worked through that list. And about a month after that, I was getting ready to pull a trigger, and that's when I saw Gavin, actually met Gavin at Photo Plus, and Gavin put me in touch with the folks at Olympus, and I got to try out one of their loaner kits for a couple of weeks, and did the same thing again, put together a detailed list of everything I needed to make sure the camera did, so that once I made the switch, I knew that there wasn't going to be any of this crap. How do I do this? Or I can't do this. What am I going to do? None of that. So, my advice is don't buy a camera because some idiot on YouTube said you should buy it. Don't buy a camera because it's the newest, latest, greatest, best. Buy a camera after you've had it in your hands and tried it out. And, I hear from a lot of people in different countries that they can't rent cameras in their country. If there's any camera store in your country, any camera store, go take a disc, put it in the camera store, and take the pictures right there. And with your list, and go through it to make sure it does what you need it to do. And if that doesn't work, Amazon sells almost all over the world. Amazon has a great return policy. Buy the camera. Make sure you have a list ready when that camera arrives. What are all the things that are important to me to be able to do? And then you've got to make sure you're scheduling. Set aside time. Put that camera through all of its paces right away before your return window is over. When people don't do that, I just think it's really kind of short-sighted and foolish, to be honest with you. That's the best answer I can give you. So, okay. Perluigi, Daniel Norton. Yes, another guy that I would love to talk to. There's a chance I may be meeting him. I'm not sure. In a couple weeks, I'm going to be doing some stuff with Adorama, and hopefully I'll get to meet him. So, Mitch Morgan, is Olympus still doing the deal where you can try out a camera for a day for free? That's in Europe. They do that one. And yeah, they still do. Then they check depending on where you are in Europe, whether it's UK or like Norway or whichever, check out the local Olympus website, and they post them in the event sections there. They do them, quite a bit. Okay. So, let's see. Deck Luck. User manuals have some useful information, but people seldom read them. There is that. Indeed, people unfortunately don't read them. That's another one of my predictions. I think pretty soon, maybe not this year, but soon, you're going to start seeing some high-end cameras show up without camera manuals. There'll still be a manual. You just download it. You'll get a link, because a lot of stuff you buy now doesn't have a manual. I mean, not even just camera stuff. I mean, a lot of stuff you buy doesn't have manuals, and it's got a URL in the box or even on a label, like right on the item, and you go to that. So, Gene Moore, I actually had Manny on about a year ago. Manny was on, and I'm sure that I will probably have him back on again. I love Manny. He's awesome. But there is, if you go back through way back through the talk chats, there is an interview with Manny. Okay, so let's see here. Jean Lapalme, I want to start paid work with modeling agencies. Where do I start? I've done a bunch of TFP for good portfolios. That's about it, Jean. You're not going to get money out of a modeling agency. Sorry. So there's two kinds of modeling agencies, John, and I'm going to oversimplify this, guys. So please at least be careful how you quote me. Okay. So I want to keep this kind of at the 50,000 foot level. There is the modeling agency that only ever makes money by booking the model work, ever. And then there's the kind of modeling agency that will teach classes and charge the model fees for being on their website and all kind of crap like that. Two kinds. The modeling agency that only ever makes money by getting a model work, they're never going to pay a dime. They don't pay for pictures. That's on the model, period. Okay? That would be like going to like Ford agency in New York, biggest and the best in the world. They're not paying a photographer. Okay? So, as far as those other agencies, a lot of the ones that teach classes in that, at the end of the classes, whether it's 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever it is, part of what's included in the fee of the classes is a photo shoot, and they hire a photographer. Usually, Jean, what they do is they'll hire some kid out of college that they can get to come in and work for $50 for the night and hand them all the files. So in terms of making real money shooting models, Jean, don't hate me, but when a model comes to me now and says, Joe, I want to pay you to shoot my modeling portfolio, the first thing I tell them, sorry guys, the first thing I tell them, don't drink water on a live show and have it go down the wrong hole. The first thing I tell them is don't pay to get your modeling portfolio done, period. There's no reason for a young girl who's thinking about modeling to spend money and pay for a modeling portfolio until she is already signed by an agency and already making money. Then there is some value to hiring a photographer. But guess what? The photographer she's not going to hire is not the photographer. The photographer she's going to hire, sorry, it's not some photographer shooting modeling portfolios. She's going to hire the same photographer that's shooting the ads that she wants to be in. It's going to be expensive, but that's the only time it's worth it. It's not worth spending the money up front. It's just not in today's world. You know, if the model needs pictures to go into an agency, it's easy to get people to take pictures of a girl at this point. So, let's see. Robert Julian, will Olympus ever make a camera with a model name that does not resemble a complicated password? So there is actually, I'll report back next week. There is actually a very simple naming convention behind the cameras. So just so clear, like the OM stands for Olympus, right? OMD, Olympus Digital, right? But it's the EM5, the EM10, the EM1. That's the part that I don't remember. I will report back next week, okay? Once you understand what the naming mechanism is, it actually doesn't sound like a complicated password, because I won't lie to you. When I first did the switch and started doing the videos and I was saying OMD EM1, I was like it's like, what is all this? But once you understand what it is, it actually makes total sense. And it's really bad that I don't remember what the E part and all that is. I will get you that information and I will report back on that next week. But there is actually kind of a reasoning behind it. And once you understand that, it totally makes sense. Nick, if I could get George Harrell, one step at a time, right? I'll tell you guys right now, my two big gets that I want, I'll tell you straight up, my two big gets, like real photographers. Number one on my list is David Hume Kennerly. Number two on my list, he probably should be number one, out of fairness, but is Douglas Kirkland. But I promise you, I'm committed to the interviews. We're going to be doing a lot of them. Got some cool stuff planned there, okay? So, Tom, how do you feel about the excessive retouching seen so often today where skin appears almost mannequin-like in its appearance? I wonder what icons like Richard Avedon would think. I believe you, Avedon. I guarantee you Avedon would be doing it in a heartbeat. Why? Because Avedon was a cutting-edge creative. He was ahead of his time. Okay? So, yeah, he would be doing it. And please, in all fairness, please don't think that a lot of Avedon's work wasn't airbrushed. So it was. Okay? Look at the people that he photographed. It was airbrushed. Right? Not all of it, but some of it. For me, I like perfect skin. So, my personal feelings, and Tom, you may disagree, all right? But my personal feelings, I don't over-retouch my images, but I do, my beauty shots, I retouch them right up to the point where the skin is perfect, but I don't ever want it to look plastic. So in other words, if obviously it's tough on Facebook, right? But if you were to look at one of my images full res on a computer screen or see a big print of one of my images, you would see that there is texture in the skin, real texture, not looking like a plastic doll texture, okay? But I do, and straight up, I go right up to that line every time. I like perfect skin. My images, so this does not apply for everybody, and I'm not saying this is what you should be doing. My images are fantasy. Okay, it's my fantasy of what's happening. So there's always texture, and that's important to me. Even you guys remember that I had that picture entered in the Billboard contest. So here, I'll give you guys a little teaser. All right, a lot of you, thank you, took the time to vote for me in a project called Art Pop Street Gallery, and my image won the People's Choice Award, which means that my photo shot with a micro 4/3 sensor, an Olympus OMD EM1 Mark II, is going to appear on a billboard 48 feet long by 14 feet tall for a full year. So the cool part of it is, here you go, Gene. So you're asking, what's the largest print you've ever done? You ready? Here's the largest print that I've ever done. I'm going to put it on the screen right over top of me. I'll show you guys the full size very soon, okay? But that's a real billboard. This is not a composite photo. They just installed the billboard this week. I'm going to post a video next week after the new camera launch from Olympus, okay? The video that I'm going to post, I will show you close-ups of the billboard standing 3 feet in front of it. You will be blown away how sharp that image is. It's awesome. Per Luigi, do I use frequency separation? I do, excuse me, but I don't do as much with the frequency separation that a lot of people do. Okay, I use it mainly for being able to blend skin tones, and that's it. So that's kind of my limit with it. Life's beautiful. When I shoot models, do you prefer an octabox or a beauty dish, and why? Well, it depends on what I'm shooting. You know, I do prefer round modifiers so that I have a natural round catch light in the eye, right? Round modifier gives me a round catch light, just like the sun. That's natural. Beauty dish, if I want a really quick fall off, octabox or a round octabox if I'm looking for kind of softer, you know, light in that regard. So that would be the choice, and then the whys. So, Chess, am I sorry that the upcoming Olympus top model does not have a detachable battery grip, or do you always use a battery grip? I believe it's only rumored that it doesn't have a detachable grip. But I can say that on my EM1 Mark IIs, I always have a battery grip on them, always. I like having the extra stuff. So either way, for me, it doesn't bother me. You know, that's great. The only time that I take battery grips off of my Mark IIs is if I'm shooting video, because then I don't need it. But now, like the camera that is shooting me right now, which is a Mark II, it's an OMD EM1 Mark II, it does have a battery grip on it because for the Olympus brand, the AC port is in the battery grip. So that's the only reason I have a battery grip on it at the moment. Otherwise, there would be no need. So let's see, Chaz. I've had some comments on some portraits of females where they, not the model, have said you can see the pores, but the model did not like that. You can't win. Well, yeah, actually, Chaz, you just don't worry about that, man. You have to take it from the standpoint of what do you do, what do you like, and you do your thing, and then you find the people that appreciate that, right? You're never going to be able to make everybody happy. Not everybody's going to think what you do is amazing, et cetera, et cetera. So, excuse me. It's kind of one of those things that I wouldn't stress that too much. You know, find your clients, and then it's not a problem. So. Brian V, I mostly photograph dogs and animals. After months of research, I settled on a new Olympus system. Today, Sony announces Animal Eye Autofocus. Do I need this? Is it a gimmick? Well, so, okay, we were talking kind of about this stuff a little bit earlier on, Brian, but it's not a gimmick. But do you need it? I don't know. So, first of all, the camera just came out today, right? Or it was just announced today, the Sony camera. So, we've got a lot of specs, and we have a lot of YouTubers playing with it, but we don't really know how well does it really, you know, perform, okay? And again, I'm not trying to hedge my bets on Sony, so everybody relax, please, all right? I just, you know, I don't know, is it actually as fast as a Mark II? Is it actually faster? The fact that they're calling it Animal Eye Autofocus, basically what that means is they're putting some artificial intelligence in play. We were talking about that earlier. As I predicted, and not because of the Sony camera, but because of stuff that we're seeing, you're going to see a lot more of this AI stuff this year. So, you know, to be realistic, let's remember one thing, all right? All of these AI features, animal autofocus, whatever, they are not features that you need to take a good photograph. They are honestly the equivalent of high-speed sync. They are convenience features, okay? If, excuse me, if you do a lot of a specific work that fits a specific feature and it makes your job easier, maybe it gives you a better hit rate, whatever, then that's great. And that makes sense, okay? But Just because you shoot animals and a company comes out with a camera and says, this is for animals, does that mean you need it? No, you don't need it. But if you find that it's going to give a significant improvement over its capabilities from what you're using now, well, then maybe, there's a possibility. So, JR, do I know how long after the announcement of the new Olympus it would be before being for sale? Oh, hell. 1 month, approximately. That's my understanding. I don't know that for a fact. Okay, so don't quote me. 1 month is what and that's about normal with most camera companies, what I have been led to understand is that by the time we get to WPPI, the camera will be like hitting the street right about the time we go to WPPI. So that's what I've been led to believe. So, okay. So let's see. Rick, I've talked about the new Olympus camera quite a bit, so I'm going to make you go back and watch. I'm sorry. I've talked about it quite a bit. And just so you know, so you don't have to stress, I haven't really said much about it because I can't, other than I think it's pretty awesome. But yeah, I will be dropping a video next Thursday after the announcement that, I will talk about it. So, hey, I had a question before we run out of time here. Since we're getting a little late, I want to get 2 of these in. This one came from Instagram. Desmond asked me this question. Thanks. Okay, sorry. There's so much to learn about editing photos. Yeah. Okay. He goes on, color profiles, file sizes, color checkers, white balance, calibrators, etc. He can't make sense of it all. What are the essentials? So, Desmond, the short answer to your question, all of those things. The more practical answer is start out, keep it simple, stupid. If you're just beginning and you haven't already purchased software and that kind of stuff, I would actually encourage a brand new photographer starting out today to go with a program like Skylum Luminar. They're up to version 3 now, okay? Excuse me, awesome processing capabilities, awesome digital asset management, very, very reasonable price, no subscription, etc. That's where I would start. The other reason I would pick them is because they have some tremendous, tremendous educational material online showing you how to use it, showing you the capabilities of it, okay? Then depending on where you go with your photography, Desmond, you may find yourself needing some of like the liquify features in that Photoshop does and that, so it may make more sense then to move into the Adobe ecosystem. Some of the things you mentioned, like color profiles, color checkers, white balance, calibrators, they're all very important. But when you're first starting out, if you're just getting into post-processing, they can be very overwhelming. I'm not going to lie. When I started working in digital technology, I didn't learn any of that stuff for probably the first 5 years. I simply didn't. And I'm not encouraging that. I'm just saying I didn't. And I was making money. I was putting out client work. I was paying bills, right? And, finally got to the point where I realized it's like, dude, you can't ignore this anymore. Excuse me. You've got to pay attention to stuff and got to get your head wrapped around it. I think I've told you guys before, I bought my first pro digital camera in the year 2000 when the Nikon D1 came out. I didn't shoot raw files as a rule until 2012. 12 years. I was only shooting JPEGs. I know, don't tell Fro, just please don't tell Fro, okay? And don't tell Tony because I don't want him to, think he won the argument. But no, literally, I shot JPEGs up until about 2012. That was exclusive. Go to. Never shot raw in that time period. And I will tell you this. So here's the real blasphemy for you Fro fans. I'm glad that I did that. In hindsight, I am glad that I did that. A little bit earlier on tonight, somebody asked me about film, and I said that I'm glad I learned in film because it forced me to be patient, because I'm not patient. I'm glad I learned digital shooting JPEGs because it forced me to be accurate. I had to get the exposure and the color balance right in the camera. It taught me so much more discipline in digital technology because I didn't have the ability to go into RAW and just override everything and fix whatever I screwed up. So I did not have the ability to get lazy. I would like to tell you that I was so smart that that's why I didn't shoot RAW until 2012. No, I didn't shoot RAW until 2012 because it was one more thing I was going to have to learn, and I didn't want to have to learn it. I was being lazy. I was getting great results with my JPEGs because I had discipline with the camera, which I had from the film days. So it wasn't a problem. Around about 2012, I started to realize, like, yeah, you're kidding yourself. Eventually, this is going to kind of catch up to you and bite you in the butt. You really need to get your head wrapped around this. Boom. And that's when I started shooting RAW. So up to that point, though, I shot exclusively JPEGs. So let's see. Cool. Just rough idea to think about because let's get to white line, make another. Okay, cool. Gmorg, much better than spray and pray. Yes, it is for sure. Okay. Let's see. Fortati, it depends. Even if you're a new starter in photography, it's helpful to work with those programs that we use in the future. I used Zoner before Adobe, and boy, that's a big difference. Yeah, you know, and I don't agree with that. I mean, the thing you have to understand there, Fortati, is that I would argue if you're saying that it's inevitable that somebody's going to use Adobe, because it's not anymore. It's absolutely not. There are a lot of high-end, big-name photographers that are working exclusively with Luminary. They have switched and abandoned Adobe. So it's very unlikely that they'll go back to Adobe in their career. You know, it's just like people are like, well, oh, will you ever go back to my class? Like, no, at this point, why would I do that? And one, I'm an ambassador, duh. But making all that change, I don't change just for the hell of changing. It was a big freaking deal to change. I'm not going back. And there's no bitterness there. It's just, no, I'm not going back. I love the ecosystem I'm in. So unless like Olympus goes out of business, you know, I'm not going anywhere. So I think that, I don't think that it's a reasonable argument that you can, you know, say, well, they're going to learn Adobe anyway, so maybe they should start there. No, I don't think that. You know, you look at what programs like Luminar can do, pretty doggone intense. So, anyway, my thoughts there. So Desmond, that's where I'm at. Not that I want to learn or I'm being lazy, but there's way too much information to learn with everyone doing different steps. Yeah, but see, you know, Desmond, that's the thing you have to understand. So I hate to say that, you know, I don't want this to sound harsh, or I definitely don't want it to sound like any kind of a put down, but that's what makes a successful photographer as opposed to an amateur photographer. A successful photographer has the thirst, the unquenchable thirst to learn more, shoot more, work more, and they're going to bust their butt. Not everybody picks up a camera for that reason. So I guess what I'm trying to say, Desmond, is it's okay to not have that thirst, right? But don't let yourself feel that you need to. Part of the problem between social media and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram is it's like, well, this guy does all these things and he's there, so I need to do all those things. No, you don't. You absolutely don't, okay? You should decide for yourself what you want to do and what you need to do. And then you use sources like YouTube or Facebook or wherever to figure out, okay, what do I need to do to get to that point? But to look at somebody else and say, I want to be them, so I have to learn all these things? Nah, man, that makes it work. I always explain this to people. I work all or part of 7 days a week. I love my job. I am blessed to have a wife who is tremendously supportive of what I do. I am very good at compartmentalizing my time, so I still have family time, still have a relationship, but I work every day. The best part of my life, I don't have a job. I haven't had a job for most of my life, and it doesn't feel like work. The work that I do, it is a thirst. It is a thirst that has to be quenched. I want to learn. I want to do. I want to produce content. I want to share. I want to create. I want to try things. I want to experiment. The day that stops is the day that I will quit. Done. That's it. But in the meantime, I can't, you know, people are like, well, you know, because let's see, I'm going to be 59 next month, which really sucks. You know, my wife is actually about to reach retirement age. I don't know that I'm a guy that'll ever retire. I don't think I could. You know, as long as I have all my faculties and can still move and do things, I love what I do. Why would I stop, right? I just wouldn't. So, yeah, Gene's saying here, 64 and learns every day. You have that thirst. To be successful, you have to have that thirst. The day that I stop learning is the day that I'm done. So you guys think, it's all just teaching? God, no. Every time I teach, I learn. I learn for myself sometimes. It's relearning things. It's rethinking things. Learning is what makes you better. Learning is what makes you grow. But that doesn't mean you spend all that time on YouTube watching tutorials. That means you pick up a camera. You use YouTube, you use all that as a resource. You guys have heard me say it many, many times before. I love you for being here and spending the time with me, but you should not be spending all your free photography time on YouTube. You should be taking pictures. Even if you're just taking pictures of stuff sitting on your kitchen table or your bedside table, whatever, just take pictures. Use the camera. If you don't have the ability that you can spend hours sitting in front of a computer, load Photoshop or Lightroom onto your phone or your iPad or your laptop, excuse me, and process images the best you can there, just to be creative, just to try things, just to play. That's the way you keep improving, and that's the way you keep it fun, right? You just do. But I've heard a lot of that in a lot of the questions that came up tonight, and that is that a lot of people are thinking that so much of what they've got to do, they're thinking it because, well, all these other people do it that way, so I've got to learn that. No, you don't. You don't have to learn the things. You don't have to do the things that you don't want to do. Do the stuff, excuse me, that's fun, that you enjoy, okay? All right. So I am probably a moment or two away from having a coughing attack because I've been talking for 90 minutes and just getting over this cold. We are at 92 minutes, which means you guys owe me like 184 for being here before you come back next week. All right. Next Wednesday, TogChat again. Next Thursday, for all you Olympus folk, there will be a video all about the new camera. You'll be able to check that out. Next weekend, there's going to be a video about the Micro Four Thirds image that I shot on the billboard. But it's not just for Olympus people, and it's not just bragging about Micro Four Thirds. It's going to tell you, number one, about the Art Pop Street Gallery program, which is an amazing program that a lot of you should get involved in here in the U.S. And it's also going to tell you a lot about the technology of enlarging images that big, how they do it, what the ups and downs are, and you're going to be blown away, not by the fact that it was shot by Micro Four Thirds. You're going to be blown away by how crisp and sharp the image is when you see how small the file is that I had to submit for the billboard. Insanely small, and the billboard is tack sharp. So anyway, gang, have a great week. Please go take lots of pictures. For those of you that come into Atlanta, looking forward to meeting you there. Again, I'm only going to be on the floor Monday afternoon, Tuesday morning, so track me down. Follow my social media. I'll talk about where I'm at, or even send me a message if you have to, but I really, really want to meet you. If you're attending the conference, make sure you're at my talk Tuesday morning, so don't stay up and party all night Monday night because it's 8 a.m. All right? So anyway, gang, again, thank you so much. Have a great week, and as always, remember these words.
Thanks for watching another live episode of TogChat. Now, pick up that camera and shoot something, because your best shot is your next shot. So keep learning, keep thinking, and keep shooting. Adios.